This afternoon, it's the 67th running of the Daytona 500. The start time, by the way, hasn't been moved up an hour, 1:30 Eastern, trying to avoid some storms down there in Florida. Our reporter Ryan McGee is in his element, his 30th consecutive Daytona, and I see you've run into a young up-and-comer looking to prove himself on the big stage there.
Yeah, I'm all about supporting the youngsters just getting started in the sport. All right, so you mentioned this is the 67th Daytona 500. This is going to be Jimmie's 22nd?
22nd start, yes.
Jimmie Johnson, two-time winner of this race, seven-time Cup Series champion, already in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And I guess you just get bored and decide you're going to own a team and also run a couple races this year.
I've been really bad at retiring, so I'm back in a variety of ways having fun.
All right, so Hannah, what we want to do is that a lot of people are going to watch this race today that don't normally watch a NASCAR race, and there have been so many just crazy, overwhelmingly different changes to this race car in the last 3 years. This is what we call Gen 7. First of all, that is Shaq, right?
That is Shaq. We have a collaboration with Carvana and Shaq. Shaq's at the NBA All-Star event. Look from there talking about this gorgeous car that's going to be in the Daytona 500, and it all came through with a great collaboration from Carvana. But as you mentioned, this car is just a lot different. It's now a spec car.
Yep.
Back in my era of driving, we could manufacture it. Now it's a spec vehicle, and that's really helped drive down costs. But specific to today's race, our cars in the race will be much like in a peloton for a cycling event. But the way we create opportunities to pass are by ramming each other. And so this bumper shape is like one added feature that's been developed so that it's a nice flat surface so that you can safely ram the car in front of you to propel your lane forward.
Yeah, all right, so back in the day, we called it the chrome horn. This is the carbon fiber horn.
It is.
Okay.
Bump drafting, slam drafting, there's a variety of different kind of names that go with it.
But Jimmie, I think about your 7 championships, you won it in a few different types of race cars.
Right.
And I always go back to, you and I had a conversation at Hendrick Motorsports a few years ago about the Twisted Sister, they called it. And the car looked wrecked before it rolled on the track. And this side's this way and that side's that way. Literally, the car was twisted. This car is symmetrical, right?
It is.
All right, how different is that for you then in the cockpit?
Inside the car, there's less performance as a result, but ultimately the sanctioning body wanted to create equality and wanted to help drop the cost because those twisted cars were just becoming so expensive. And now we have a common car that runs on all styles of tracks. We actually only go through 7 vehicles a year, where the era you mentioned was probably 20 cars a year.
Yeah, no, you go to the race shop in the 2000s, and there would literally be dozens of cars sitting there. You go there now, and there's a half a dozen cars. All right, so for Daytona, normally this car, and again, it's one size fits all race car. Normally it creates a little over 700 horsepower. This is more in the 500 and change range. We don't call it a restrictor plate anymore, but that's what it is. But aero-wise, what is going to be on this car, like the spoiler, the roof rails? What's different here versus if you were running this car at Bowman Gray Stadium 2 weekends ago?
With this new car, it's all the same. And that's what really helps us with the expenses in manufacturing certain cars. But there are some great safety features. You have these roof rails as the car spins sideways. This rail trips the air and helps keep the car on the ground. You can see this window here, this plastic window. As the air would come in when you would spin, it would create lift and lift the car up and have it flip over. There's some other little trinkets like that on the car that are there from a safety reason. And then another safety reason slash kind of cost savings. We used to have a 5 lug nut pattern to change the tires, and now we're down to a single lug.
Wow.
And that helps us on the pit crew side. From an athlete standpoint, the pit crew costs are quite high, and recruitment, retention, finding these incredible athletes to get 5 lug nuts and run around the car and do it on the other side, this has helped that quite a bit.
I think of in the 30 years I've been here and the 20 plus years you've been here, the thing that's changed the most is that. When I first started covering racing, it was the fat guys from the shop, that built the engines, and then they'd just go pit the car.
Yeah.
Now, there are so many guys who played in college football national championship games going over the wall for these pit crews. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, we have a combine, actually ourselves, and try to recruit graduating seniors that aren't going to pursue pro athletics and bring them in. As you can imagine, we still use a manual jack to get the car up. You have the weight of the tires and the footwork to get around, get to the other side. We have a lot of linebackers that sign up for the fuel man position to get that fuel plug in over here on the left rear corner. It's changed quite a bit over the years. And it went from being the mechanics, as you mentioned, to now dedicated athletes.
There you go. And you said Shaq's at the NBA All-Star game. If he was here, he could just lift the car up on one side and he could change tires.
You seen his suit? We have it here somewhere.
There is a fire suit here, Hannah, for Shaquille O'Neal. And I can tell you, listen, race car drivers, Jimmie's actually kind of tall for a race car driver. Race car drivers are not big people. You could put 3 or 4 Cup drivers inside a Shaq suit. Jimmie, thank you.
Thank you.
A little education there for you, Hannah. And we'll see if he can make it 3 Daytona 500
Hi, Hannah.
championships.
Come to the races again.
Hey, Jimmie, great to see you. Love the pinstripes and Shaq. I mean, this is not your father's stock car at all. That was great stuff. Thank you so much, Ryan.